Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. It's two guys' take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, and you, the listener, are getting a degree in common sense. We are broadcasting from the HB5 studios right here in beautiful downtown historic Concord, North Carolina, and I be your host, Biggun. I'm excited to have a great show with you, as always. But before we begin, let me go ahead and introduce you to the second half of this inaugural parade. That's right, I'm talking about the pride of Anderson, South Carolina, 2016's Honorable Mention Father of the Year, the inventor of the Redneck Egg Roll. That's right, give it up on old mic number one, it's Mojo!
Wow. Just keep getting better, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a world where a Cheeto-colored man can be president, we are here for some rational thoughts and explanations.
Let's just not try to lick him, right?
Yeah, I don't know how it tastes. But yeah, speaking of that, it's inaugural week of our 45th president. But besides that, we're just here to kind of relax and, share some Southern philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And but we're here with you today, and hopefully just sit back and listen. Up on the show today, we'll have our constant segment, How You Be Doing.
Of course.
Have a little wacky news. We're also going to do a little food segment and then go over to our special guest today. His name is Mackie Johnson. Mackie, why don't you say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Mackie's actually a clinical addiction specialist, I think. Is that what we refer to you as?
That'll work.
Okay. He's got all kinds of credentials at the end of his name. So
we're going to bring him in to talk about my addiction to donuts.
Oh, that's all right, too. But anyway, you guys can check us out on southernfriedphilosophy.com. You can check us out at SFP Radio on the Instagrams, Twitter, and also Southern Fried Philosophy on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Please interact with us there. We've actually been sharing some funny pictures and some funny things along our journey here. But we appreciate you guys listening in. This is episode number
20,
a special 20. So
wow,
yeah, there we go. So
it's like your teen daughter is like going away to college,
mm-hmm.
and it's like that mile marker that you hit. She hits 20.
Is it
That's
so?
we're
She's like pulling out the driveway. We're crying, waving goodbye.
Yeah. To those 19 episodes that went behind.
That's right. It feels like so many years. So anyway, but anyway, how you be doing today?
Oh man, I'm good. Man, I'm great. You are like recovering from something. So
the bubonic plague and Ebola last week.
So how's that?
I'm fine now. Thank God for Tamiflu. So
yeah, that stuff work for you?
Man, I've never had the flu before.
Oh,
but,
really?
Yeah, and oh man, it was absolutely brutal. And with the heart transplant, I'm on so many immunosuppressant drugs,
right.
Suppressing drugs. So my immune system's at like 50%. What yours would be. So yeah, it took a little bit longer to recover. But boy, I tell you what, I've never shivered that much in my whole life. So.
Do you have it coming up the upstairs and the downstairs?
Just the down. I had the Baton Death Dookie March, so it was brutal. Yeah. So
isn't that the worst when you got it coming up both sides? Because
you can't predict. You gotta have a trash can. Yeah, something.
Oh,
so
it's
it's
the worst.
And actually, I had right beside me just in case it came up.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, from the day the week I did the Uber experiment, I actually brought some vomit bags, the airplane vomit bags. So I had those just in case I needed to Ralph.
Very nice.
But I'm just thankful to be on the other side of that. Hopefully I never get that again.
Yeah.
But, and actually, this is actually ironically the first year I had the flu shot too. I got the flu. So
how about it?
Yeah, so it was kind of double whammy.
Keeping up with high culture that we are,
right?
Talking about poop, how I be doing. My wife said something to me that I never thought I would ever hear in my lifetime, or ever really. I had to use the facilities this morning, and she came in and said, she goes, your stuff, your poops, smells like butter, and not the good kind of butter. So I don't know really how to react to that.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a bad butter out there.
My stuff smells like butter. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
A little butt butter.
Yeah. How about it? So my stuff smells like butter, evidently.
Yeah. I guess it's worse than mine, or better than mine. I'm sorry.
I think it reeks. Like, I don't know how. Like, my nose hairs are burnt off from last time, but
you never mind your own brand.
no,
No.
Yeah.
You can tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, especially when you're the windows are locked up and other people in the car. You definitely don't mind it then. So
little Dutch oven action
That's
going
right.
on. Yeah,
that's
gotcha.
right.
Well, very cool. So, anything else for your
Man, no,
That's it?
I'm telling you, the last 2 weeks have been on couch coma. Netflix and coma. So
At least you're not Netflixing and chilling.
no, just I had be honest, it was very kind of nice, even though I was sick. It was very nice just to be able to sit back and not really have to worry about social media. Because that could ruin your day pretty quick. Just going to social media and seeing all kinds of things, but. Maybe we might have a lot more things to talk about next week after the inauguration and snowflakes and protesters.
Ooh.
So it might be interesting next few days. But
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some wacky news. How about that?
go for it.
How bizarre. How bizarre. How bizarre. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. It's making me crazy. It's making me crazy. Every time I look around. Every time I look around.
All right.
Every time I look around. Every time I look around.
Goodness, there's so much wacky news that's going on. So I'll start off with, according to Austin police, a man hid some cocaine under his stomach fat.
Oh wow.
According to the CBS affiliate in Austin and other resources, Florinto Horina, he's 48, tried to hide cocaine under his belly fat during a DWI stop. Online records from the Travis County Correctional Complex confirmed that he was arrested in the early morning hours of December 31st, so you kind of know what he was partying before. And according to police, they pulled him over after a rapid lane change along a boulevard. He did admit, though, to having two Crown and Cokes, just two.
Did it have a quantity that he was arrested with? I'm just curious.
No,
Okay.
It doesn't say how much.
Like a kilo of Colombian Bam Bam under his neck fat.
Police say that Hierro was caught on camera in the patrol car trying to destroy the cocaine he had hidden under his stomach fat.
Mm.
He was held Wednesday for a total bond of $55,000.
Some actually must have been a fairly large amount for $55,000. So.
But hey, I mean, why are you trying to get rid of it if they haven't found it yet?
Yeah, right.
They're probably not going to, because you're not going to get a strip search going into detox, are you? Well, I don't know. You may, but 50,
No,
Yeah.
you don't get strip search going into detox. No,
let's
sir.
see. So now here, listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
You'll know what not to do next time.
But you probably need to go into detox.
Yeah, I mean, good gosh. Listen, nothing happened. My grandma said nothing good happens after midnight.
That's
and
right.
Evidently, he did not follow grandma's advice on that one.
I guess, well, yeah, my grandma used to say that quite often. So
Yeah.
my mom still tells me that too.
Do you also tell you that to the kiddos?
Well, I don't have that issue yet.
Not yet.
No, so thank goodness. So,
I have one more, or you go.
well, the one I brought up, or wanted to bring up, I'm not going to read the article because the article doesn't really do it justice. But this week, a Virginia man in Bristol, Virginia, it's on the cusp of Tennessee, Virginia line there. He pays his DMV bill with 300,000 pennies.
Wow.
Yeah. This guy, evidently, this guy was really just ticked off that the DMV and also the state of Virginia actually wasted this guy's time.
Sure.
He was trying to actually find like a live phone number to call someone and discuss, how does he pay this bill? How does he, whatever. But he actually had to file a FOIA, or Freedom of Information Act request to actually get a live number to actually talk to a person. So anyway, between that and he had to file a lawsuit against the DMV to get some more information about where to pay a bill. And he was actually charged like $200 in court fees. The DMV didn't have any fees to pay. So after that, he just said, screw it. He went ahead and paid a $3,000 bill It was for taxes and registrations for his son's new vehicle and his vehicle.
Wow.
But it took 5 wheelbarrows full of pennies. He also had to hire several men and women to actually unroll the wrappers of pennies. And it took him approximately 86 hours worth of labor to unpack all that. So, yeah. So that's the hero of the day for me. His name's Nick Stafford. He's out of Bristol, Virginia. But my hat's off to you, man. My hat's off to you. Taxation is theft.
What if he was like off a penny and they're like, well, nope.
There's
Send it
actually
all
you
back.
can go on his you can find like on several YouTube World Hip Hop Star or whatever, but of him actually showing the DMV clerks counting penny per penny. He actually broke several coin machines as they were counting. So it probably took them a few hours to do that.
They had to buy some off of Amazon Prime and try to get them within
Same
the hour.
day delivery. Yeah, that's right.
Good gracious. Well, we've known my hatred of squirrels. I hate squirrels. Squirrels are just rats with a good PR guy. I've got to believe that.
Well, they were Disney characters, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not the only one that hates squirrels. Howard Brookins, he is the alderman for Chicago, went on a public tirade about aggressive squirrels, griping that the furry critters kept eating through the city wires. But the problem is he had no idea how aggressive these squirrels were. On November 13th, this is a little bit old, the alderman found himself in the hospital with a skull fracture after a squirrel leapt into the path of Brookins' bike, and he wrapped itself in the spokes and causing him to flip over the handlebars. He told the Tribune, I could think of no other reason for this squirrel's actions other than it is the act of a suicide bomber getting revenge.
Holy crap.
So the squirrel jumped into the spokes of his bike and flipped him over. Some outlets like the Chicago Sun-Times covered the incident, but simply referred to it as a freak accident because they were afraid to call it a radical squirrel terrorism by name. So there is a picture of the dead squirrel in the bicycle spokes, and we'll post that up on the website.
Speaking of squirrels,
squirrels.
This story came to mind. I read. It's been quite a while back, but actually, a Michigan man is being sued for $2 million worth of damages from his apartment complex because he was actually using a blowtorch to cook a squirrel in his apartment complex. Yeah, so he actually set the whole apartment complex on fire. But he's actually being held accountable for $2 million worth of damages. It happened in 2012, but it finally came to court in 2016. So that's the reason why I remember reading about it. So squirrels evidently are just creatures that cost a lot of money.
They are. I mean, they took out our power line. We had to get that restrung because of the stupid squirrels, and I think that they're back in the attic. Good gracious, I hate these things.
Well, you remember what the squirrel did to the Griswold?
That's right. The Christmas tree.
Living room.
That's right. That's right.
Christmas Vacation.
I love that movie.
And was it Louis Dreyfus, whatever?
Oh yeah.
The squirrel jumped on her and. The dog attacked her, so yeah, squirrels are little menacing creatures. That's
dangerous. Rat with
and just don't let them get in the road in front of you.
No, I thought that this guy. I was reading the story, and I thought that the squirrel was just going to be on the, jump out on the bicycle path. But this thing just jumped in the bicycle spokes and then just tore it up.
That's crazy.
That,
a kamikaze style.
Yeah, it was a suicide squirrel.
Have you ever had squirrel before?
I have not.
Have you?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to need to.
Mackie's from Camden, South Carolina. So I'm from South Carolina too. So you have to have squirrels.
Well, listen, because I know that there's squirrel seasons, and I think we have just gotten out of squirrel season. So when it's back on, me and my airsoft rifle are gonna take out something.
Is there a season like
there is season? Yeah.
I mean,
even
for like nuisance.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can't kill it unless it's in the season. Remember, we had that episode with the bird. Like it has to have a season for you to kill it. So if it don't have it, then you can't kill it.
You can't accidentally kill them?
Nope. Wow. You go to jail. Literally go to jail for that.
That's crazy.
Killing a bird.
Wow.
What are you in for? I murdered 14 people. What did you do? I killed a bird.
Or a squirrel. Off season.
Season. I killed a squirrel off season. So, wow.
So did you see this article? BuzzFeed, and since we're all Southerners here, questions people from the South need to answer. This is all submitted through Twitter.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's read some of the best ones I see. Why do people from the South sound like why do people from the South like mason jars so much?
Well, they're fantastic, right?
Well,
I mean, you
think
could
so.
put anything in it, namely liquor.
Right.
That goes well in it.
It's multi-versatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife uses it. We drink out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We store stuff in it. We put flowers in it. It's a vase. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with a
I
mason
put my screws in it.
Hey, no.
That works too. So organizing. Yeah. So there you go.
You can put your screws in it.
There you go. There you go, morons. It's multi-versatile.
It's a family-friendly show. Go on.
Here we go. Why do Southerners dress up for college football games like they're going to church? You ever seen that before?
I've done it.
You've done it? Okay. I'm kind of curious that too, because coming from near Clemson, South Carolina, you
Yeah.
always see that. Just people always, every football game.
Well, because it is church.
Man,
It is a religion.
I guess it is a religion, yeah. So there you go.
That wasn't easy.
Let's see. Some of these are just stupid, but why do people from the South call men younger than them son? Are you at that age yet where you call younger kids son?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll say that. Mainly, though, it's like, buddy. Hey, buddy, what you doing?
Right.
Get off my yard, buddy. That's usually how it goes.
I usually do it just to put them in their place. Listen here, son. Yeah. Why do people from the South always add an extra S to the last name of stores? Like, girl, I found these at Belk's.
Isn't it Belk's?
It's Belk.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I thought it was Belk's too.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say, like, I got it from, like, well, I guess I wouldn't say Kmart's.
Right.
I'd say Kmart. Yeah.
Or the I've heard Walmart's.
Oh, yeah.
I got it from the Walmart's. So I don't know.
I don't know.
People from the South, why do you guys monogram everything?
Oh, that's my mother-in-law right
Yeah.
there. That is her all wrapped up.
Yeah, I think if my wife owned a monogram machine, I think we'd have everything monogrammed. So
Well, all your shirts have names on them.
yeah, well, not my names.
Right.
Yours does. It says Antonio. I see it from here.
Alfonso.
Alfonso.
All right, here's the last one.
Okay.
Why do people from the South think Olive Garden is fancy?
There was a time in my life where I thought Olive Garden was fancy because it was like more than, like $10 a plate.
Yeah, you go to
That was-
try the tour to Italy. Yeah.
You feel like you're fancy.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think being in the restaurant industry for so long, Olive Garden was one of the first, one of 3 restaurants that would always come to a new town. That would, Olive Garden, Outback, and Applebee's. Those were the 3 that would come. So those were the 3 nice restaurants. So that's the reason why I think Olive Garden's kind of made a staple here in the South as being the fancy restaurant. So, but do you like Olive Garden, Mackie?
Sure.
Sure. I like the bread. I like the breadsticks and salad sometimes.
You remember though when the breadsticks were actually they actually had the butter Parmesan stuff on it, and now it's just they dust it.
Right.
It's not nearly as good. But when they used to drown it in that used to be really good.
I haven't been to one in forever, but I do remember the breadsticks being decent. And
Yeah.
the salad
Now,
decent. So
And I'll get the Alfredo. So when I went, I would get the Alfredo sauce, and I would get the breadsticks and then put it in the Alfredo sauce. That was my jam right there.
it's kind of like a gravy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's all you
Well,
got.
their breadsticks and soups are the best thing they have there.
Yeah. I don't even know what else they have
All
on the
their
menu.
pasta dishes taste the same.
That is true.
Canned ragu. Yeah. Pretty much.
One of the questions is why do people from the South call stuffing dressing? I think that's a good question.
Well, because
Well,
there's
actually-
2 different ones.
Well, actually, it is dressing. The rest of the world's wrong.
That's right. I like your point of view, Mackie.
Now, from what I understood, and correct me, Mr. Restaurateur, a stuffing was actually what you stuffed in the bird.
Yeah.
And then the dressing is the stuff cooked outside
Exactly.
of the bird, right?
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
okay.
And be honest with you, who eats the stuffing out of a bird now with all the bacteria and stuff that everybody is aware of? I've never ate the stuffing inside
You
of a
would get
bird.
typhoid,
Yeah.
I think.
In fact, yeah. I mean, you'd get you get that long Montezuma's Revenge that you just don't want to know about. So, but yeah, so you Northerners can keep the stuff, and we'll keep our stuffing and dressing separate, I guess.
I like some good dressing.
Me too.
Good
Me too.
gravy. I love it.
I like the leftover sandwiches with the stuffing and cold turkey on it. So good stuff.
Speaking of, we're going to go to a food segment now, and it's going to be talking about.
This is the 10 North Carolina sandwiches you have to try before you die. So I don't know if you guys have been to any of these places, but here's what made the top list this time. The Havana sandwich from the old Havana shop in Durham, North Carolina. How much time you spend in Durham, Mackie? Since you're
I drive through it.
okay, you don't stop and
I don't stop.
you don't
in
ever go to
Durham.
the Duck shop, the Duke apparel shop.
The good thing about Duke is Chapel Hill is on one side and Raleigh's on the other side.
Mackie's a UNC fan, bless his heart. So we'll have to give him a hard time about that. Anyway, the Havana sandwich is just a traditional Cuban sandwich, and it has a special Mojo or Mojo sauce, which is a citrus marinade. Number 2, and I'm going there tomorrow, is the number 6 pork banh mi from Lee's Sandwich Shop in Charlotte. Have you ever been to Lee's?
I haven't.
What is the pork banh mi?
Pork banh mi is just is basically what one of the greatest contributions the French actually left the Vietnamese besides a nation ravaged. Is actually just a French baguette with a roasted. This one is the roasted pork loin. It has some pickled vegetables on it and cilantro, and the meat, the bun is actually brushed with like a fish sauce. So it's actually a really good sandwich. So
I thought it was just pork beside myself.
no, I
Pork
went
banh mi.
by there today to get one to go, and they were closed up. So
Of
evidently, the course of one day of the week they shut down
because
Wednesdays.
it's Wednesday, so
Which
that would make sense.
makes perfect sense. Wednesday, yeah. But in fact, this sandwich shop has been around. It's been around here for forever here in Charlotte, and it is in the dumpiest
That's
shopping center ever.
Where is
it? It's over at Asian Corner Mall. It's off of Sugarloaf.
that sounds good.
And Tryon, Sugarloaf, or Sugar Creek and Tryon.
Oh.
The parking lot. The parking lot looks like Normandy after a bomber run. I mean, I've never seen so many potholes in a parking lot in my life.
There's always a guy or two out there that's willing to detail your car.
That's right. You got it.
Yep.
Yep.
If you ever want to meet down there for a banh mi sandwich, let me know.
I'll meet you down there because you really need to go with
You need
a
to have somebody. That's the buddy system right there.
I went down there by myself. I was the only round eye there today. Number 3 is the pork chop Sammy.
Now this one looks good.
The snappy lunch. Yeah. Do you know the Mount Airy? Do you know that you claim to fame about Mount Airy?
Oh yeah, that's Andy Griffith's
That's
show.
right. That's where Andy Griffith was filmed there in Mount Airy. So this Snappy's Lunch has actually been there forever. And this is one of the sandwiches that the pork chop sandwich actually kind of featured on the show back in the day. So it's been around for quite a bit. It's actually a very good sandwich. It is actually a fried pork chop topped with Carolina-style chili and slaw and mustard. So it's pretty low calorie.
But let's not leave out the fact that it's battered with pancake batter. How about it?
Well, I mean, that actually adds a little crispness and sweetness to it. But
I'm all
I
about
tell you,
that.
it is actually a very good sandwich. There's actually a restaurant over in Salisbury that tries to copy it a little bit. They don't do quite the justice, but it's all right. Number 4 is the fried turkey sandwich at the Fried Turkey Sandwich Shop in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Haven't been to Fayetteville, North Carolina in quite a while. It's a military base area. But it's basically just your standard Thanksgiving fare on some bread. So you get your gravy, cranberry sauce, and stuffing, which we're just talking about, dressing.
Now, PDQ does a fried turkey sandwich. It's pretty good.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yep, you can get it and then they put the cranberry sauce on it. They don't put the gravy on it, but it's just good.
So
it's
they leave off the best part. Gotcha. All right, here you, Mac.
Here we go.
The single BLT at Merritt's in Chapel Hill. Have you ever been to Merritt's?
I don't think I have.
Merritt's is actually really good. Merritt's has been there for quite a while. But it's BLT. Their own twist is basically avocado, which is kind of a California style. They also use a pimento mayo. So it's a good, delicious sandwich. So next time you're in Chapel Hill, Mac, just go and I know you're a big fan of salad greens and avocado.
Yeah. Not so much. everything you get in Chapel Hill to eat there's always a twist on it.
Oh yeah,
You don't get normal food in Chapel Hill.
Yeah. There's always in every college town. I'm sure this way at UK, in Durham, in Chapel Hill, you always have like a hot dog shop or that biscuit shop. I know Chapel Hill has a biscuit shop. It's been there for
Biscuitville?
Yeah, no, it's a there's no one. They actually make fat cat head chicken biscuits.
Well, the best place to get breakfast in Chapel Hill is Breadman's.
Yep. Okay, that's right. It's actually been featured on like the Food Channel, I think, a couple other places too.
Yeah, go to Breadman's.
But you always every college town, you always have your standard like just greasy hot dog burger place. So here's another Charlotte staple.
Here we go.
The Tony Bologna at Pinky's West Side Grill. It's here in Charlotte. And then basically it is a fried bologna sandwich. I grew up on fried bologna. And comes with slaw, chili, mustard, and onions. Just a typical southern flair. Next up on the list is the ABC at the Rockford. It's in Raleigh. And just the sandwich has too much stuff to even look at it.
Well, you've got green apples, bacon, sharp cheddar cheese, and you can add a meat if you want to it, and then like whatever kind of bread that they've got for the day. So this one on the picture has French toast. I'm about that.
Yeah, I like the green apple too. Adds a kind of cool twist. Number 8 is the pork belly sandwich at Asheville Sandwich Company in Asheville, North Carolina.
Good gravy! Look at that thing.
Yeah, that's kind of a
Sweet
monster. And we'll
Jiminy.
add this link to our website too. Yes, basically pork belly
Insane.
pork belly sandwich is basically fried. And,
Look at this thing.
yeah, and it comes with all kinds of shoestring potatoes. Yeah, it's just basically just fried goodness.
That's great.
Number 9 is the Charlie's Cranky Crab Sandwich at the Beaufort Grocery Company in Beaufort, North Carolina. Or is it Beaufort?
Beaufort.
Beaufort.
South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. So I always get those two mixed up.
Now this next one is my jam.
Which one?
Like number 10.
Number 10 is the last one, the buttermilk fried chicken sandwich at the Buxton Hall Barbecue Joint in Asheville, North Carolina. So this thing looks like it puts a Chick-fil-A sandwich to shame, basically.
It basically ate the Chick-fil-A sandwich and pooped it out. I mean, this thing is a monster.
Yeah, it looks like a fried turkey breast, basically.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's massive.
this thing has won all kinds of awards. It's been featured in Bon Appetit magazine, and I think it has basically a road trip on our list.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to take that before you go on your secret assignment.
Yeah, we need to go check that out. Like now. You think we can be back by noon?
We can try that.
So yeah, if you didn't catch that, we'll list these all on the show notes on the website, and you can check it out there. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be talking to Mackie Johnson. He's our special guest for this evening. So we'll be back. This is Southern Fried Philosophy. If you know me, Biggun, you'll know I'm crazy about Kentucky and bourbon. So what happens when you throw coffee beans in a bourbon barrel? It's pure magic. I stumbled upon Kentucky Nose Bourbon Barrel Coffee a few years ago during a trip to Lexington, and it was love at first sip. From the heart of a true craftsman comes the unique combination of coffee and bourbon. Do yourself a favor and check out KentuckyNose.com to get the finest bourbon barrel coffee the Bluegrass has to offer. Check out KentuckyNose.com. You can also check out his new store at 337 West Broadway Street. If you're just hanging around Frankfort, Kentucky, it's a new store. It's supposed to be really awesome. So go check it out at KentuckyNose.com.
Thanks for listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. This is our interview segment. Today we have Mackey Johnson. Mackey is the clinical director at a treatment facility here in Charlotte. And he's on the show today to talk about addiction and recovery and just whatever else we can get into. So, and I think I've shared my story with addiction and stuff like that. So this is kind of close to my chest here. So, anyway, Mackie, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what you do right now at your treatment facility and kind of what you see.
All right. Well, at our treatment facility, we do just about everything involving substance abuse. We have prevention services to try and keep folks off alcohol and drugs. Mm-hmm. And we do outpatient services. We do some intensive day services where you come and hang out with us 9 or 20 hours a week. We have a detox facility, so a place you can come and dry out. We have an inpatient facility where you can come and hang out with us for 28 days. We have an adolescent program. And we also do some psychiatric services for med management, those types of things to help folks that are dealing with depression and other psychiatric conditions. And also starting to do a lot of work around the opiate addiction epidemic that's going through this area.
That's a huge epidemic right now.
It's
right?
huge.
Yeah.
Opiates are just nasty.
Right.
They're just nasty what they do to people.
Right. A lot of friendships I know that have been ruined over that. And
Sure.
yeah, just because doctor, someone goes in for a routine like surgery or an injury, they get some type of opioid type drug, from as a stopgap for pain, and then they're just they're hooked. So
Right, and for a while, I guess back in the 90s or so, there was this whole idea about quality of life.
right.
And a lot of the drug companies funded this. And I'm not going to hate on the drug companies too much because
Right.
they do a lot of good. But
They do good. Yeah.
they, they were pushing that pain is a legitimate concern. If people are uncomfortable, give them opiates. Stop the pain. Bring their pain down. Make them comfortable. And there weren't.
But
really,
I think also wouldn't opioids weren't they described as non-addictive though? And when they first came out,
Oxycontin, when it first came out,
Right.
was formulated in a pill. So if you take the pill, it dissolves slower. It's slower released into your body, which affects how addictive it is. But as industrious and clever as drug addicts are, they realized that if I crush it,
right,
I can inject it, and I'll get a heroin like
or smoke it.
Or smoke it. If you break the pill, crush it, powder it, I'll get a heroin like high.
Right.
And the cool thing about it was I could go to my doctor. My insurance would pay for it. My insurance would even buy me the drugs.
Right.
I could take it home, cook it up, and
There you go.
There you go.
Full blown addiction.
there you go.
So
Yeah.
just in case you're tuning in, that's how you can get high. Just FYI.
Not anymore. If you try and break it,
The alarm goes off and like an ink
I know
pack comes out.
it breaks in chunks, and if you try and melt it, it'll turn into a glue type
Really?
substance,
Yeah,
and
the
you can't
manufacturers. I have some experience that just because of family, being addicted to it, but also post surgeries and stuff like that. I have been on opioids, and for temporarily, they're great, but
Right.
they can be nasty to get off of. But just doing the research, because you see all things all the time on the news and stuff about the new epidemics and the black market for opioids and things like that. But I think pharmaceutical companies have done a better job, like I said, reformulating these things to where
Right.
they can't be so tampered with.
That's amazing. I had no clue about that.
Yeah.
Sure. And back in the day, before the opiates really became so common, you only got opiates if you were in surgery. You had a major condition, like you broke a bone, or you had cancer or something like that, just something that was incredibly painful, and then you would get opiates. Other than that, you got a Tylenol or an ibuprofen and a pat on the back and said, "I hate it for you, buddy."
Yeah.
Then all
Suck
the
it up,
opiates,
buttercup.
really, and then all of the issues with the opiates came along, and it's interesting that in just the past year, the CDC kind of took a back step, and they talked about opiates that right after surgery, cancer, broken bone, short duration, and then ibuprofen and physical therapy.
Right.
So it's interesting that
They've kind
20
of
years later
backpedaled a little bit.
we're going back.
But then all of a sudden, the FDA does something stupid, like all of a sudden they lower the age to 10 years old for opioids.
and they approved new opioids to be released on the market.
Yeah, it's just they count. It's like they're saying one thing, but in the back they're just doing another. So yeah,
Well,
Hey,
the truth of the
government
matter.
can do that.
what's that?
The government can do that. Just say one thing and do another.
Exactly.
I think we're about ready to have
We're gonna find out real quick.
a lesson on that coming up, but we won't talk about politics either. But the thing about opiates is they're a legitimate drug. They're a very useful drug. there are certain things that you do with opiates that you can't do with anything else. So they're valuable. And I would, medicine needs it. Well, certainly, when I had my some surgeries in the past, I'm grateful that I had opiates.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to try and do that without those.
Yes, that's right.
But they were, the idea I think was genuinely trying to be helpful, but it's just something that got away. And the pharmaceutical companies made a lot of money off of it. There have been some class action suits to some of the pharmaceutical companies about mislabeling and underreporting the dangers of this. And I think we're on a swing back the other side where more responsible use of opiates. But, we got a generation of people that are addicted to opiates now.
That's right. I think, the FDA I know has recently has changed some of the laws where I think some states were like you come see a doctor every 3 months or something like that. And I think a lot of states have gone back to you must see the doctor every month. They'll have random pill counts and things like that. So I think the FDA is trying to lock it down a little bit. But like you said, though, it's I'm afraid it's actually pushed some people out of the out of using legal opiates.
That's what happens,
and pushed them into the black market of heroin.
What happens is somebody starts using them. It's going to happen. If you put opiates in your body, you're going to develop tolerance, and you're going to need more. And a lot of times folks will use more. They'll run out early. Doctors will cut them off because they're misusing they're misusing the prescription, and they're worried about abusing and misuse of those drugs. And then folks will start going different places, doctor shopping, trying to get their opiates. And eventually you just run out of options. And then, as you said, the FDA is cracking down on how many scripts can be handed out. You can't do 2 or 3 month supplies 1 month at a time. There have databases now where they track who's prescribing opiates, and they can tell how often you're getting, and the pharmacies will actually alert your doctors, and there's all sort these types of safeguards in it.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Would that explain my need to have like 1 poppy seed lemon muffin and then need 2 the very next day? The poppy seeds, because that's an opiate, right? Poppy seeds.
You will pee positive for opioids if
I think you're a little confused. That's something else.
Okay.
I think you're just addicted to the lemon poppy seed.
Well, I was going to try to use that excuse to my wife to be like, I need more of the lemon poppy seeds.
There you go.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you're eating enough lemon poppy seed cake to
develop a tolerance.
Wow. All I can say is wow.
Nailed it.
I'd kind of like to watch that because that would be interesting. But what happens is over time, what ends up happening is people start buying heroin off the street because it's easier to get and it's cheaper. And the quality of it, the purity of it on the street is just through the roof. And then you've got a lot of other stuff that's out there too. Fentanyl's one that's picking up a lot of steam and it's very powerful.
That's where a lot of people overdose too.
Well, people overdose on opiates.
Doesn't it like suppress the respiratory or something?
It does.
Like that?
It slows down. It's the central nervous system depressant, so it slows down your breathing, heart rate, those types of things. And interesting fact about opiates: the most dangerous time for someone who uses opiates is after they've detoxed and they've been clean for a few days or a few weeks, and then they will go back and use
the same
amount. Yeah. Their body has lost their tolerance and they'll overdose. That's the number one danger period for folks that are using opiates for overdose.
So in your facility, are you seeing a huge rise in opioids, or is it, I guess, what are the heavy hitters as far as you guys see? Is alcohol still number one?
Alcohol's number one, still number one, will always be number one. The cost to society is still the greatest. It will probably always be that way.
Wow. They should probably do a thing where they like outlaw alcohol.
It's been tried.
Oh,
yeah.
We're actually going through Boardwalk Empire. Wow, that's a dirty show.
Yeah, it just fuels the black market is all it does.
Yeah.
So you can't legislate morality, so that's what happens.
You can't?
Well, we try, and then of course there's black markets for that. But
wow.
So alcohol is number one.
That's interesting.
And then opioids has to be close up there. Or?
It starts breaking down. Alcohol's number one, marijuana's number two. Those two kind of go hand in hand. And then I'm not exactly sure on what the latest is, because it really is interesting if you look around, look at the epidemiological data. Different cities in different parts of the country have different drugs that are prevalent.
Right.
So where one area, opiates will be a big deal, in other areas, cocaine's more of an issue. So for Charlotte, we tend to see, alcohol's number one. Cocaine is still very prevalent. We probably see more folks that are struggling with cocaine.
Is it still considered a designer drug? I mean,
Cocaine?
Yeah.
Oh, cocaine's not a designer drug.
Well, it used to be back in the 80s. I mean,
Back in the day when it was powder, you had to be rich to afford it.
so you're talking about cocaine in crack form or whatever, too, I guess?
Now, crack was always the dirty drug, and
Yeah.
that was the drug that was
The Scourge of Society would use?
the scourge of society. We passed all those we passed all those laws around cocaine and the sentencing, and now you've heard the controversy about, crack cocaine was those laws were discriminatory against
Right.
people of color because it kind of targeted that
Because
group.
crack is in that community, yeah.
Yeah, crack is in the community. Everybody was watching TV, watching the news, and they were afraid of what crack cocaine would do. So you would be given major sentences for a very small amount of crack cocaine,
Right.
but I could carry around pocketfuls of powder cocaine and have a much less
Sentence.
sentence.
I think the public outcry came when Whitney Houston said crack is whack. Now that probably was the
Yeah, it could have been the
Gave
crush.
it a
It could have been
bad
been
idea.
the fork in the road, yeah. Yeah, well, she died for her reason, I guess. So
Crack is whack, and don't do drugs.
just say
and
no.
Just say no. Yeah.
Remember Nancy Reagan everywhere.
Yeah.
Just say no.
How about the frying pan? This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a great one?
Yeah.
That probably worked for a
That
while.
one actually did
Yeah.
for me. Like when they were saying like acid will do this to your brain. I'm like, whoa. But I was a kid, I was like, I'll never do that ever. So
So
it worked.
the what are the top causes, I guess, of addiction that you see? Because addiction, do people just fall into it? Do people seek it out? Do people just like I say, get caught into it, or could it be something that's addiction is a pain management for something else? Like for myself, my addiction was my pain management for some personal trauma that had happened early on in my childhood. So what do you guys see a lot of, or what do you have experience with?
Well, addiction is yes to all of those.
There's no rhyme or reason. It's just
There are a couple of things that have to kind of be in place for somebody to become addicted. You've got to have a predisposition to it. You've got to have the genetic load or the genetic tendency to become addicted. And I like to say that's similar to like people that get cancer. Some families, cancer just runs through their families, and addiction's sort of the same way.
Interesting.
So addiction, you've got to have a genetic predisposition. You got to be in the right environment too. You got to be in an environment that supports it, because there are cultures where alcohol is completely, really looked down on. So it's not used in the community, and you don't see high rates of addiction in those places. And you've got to have. There's a spiritual component to it that I believe in, and I don't mean as in a formal religion component, but it's just this idea of this drug is going to make me happy. Using this is going to bring meaning to my life.
Interesting.
So for somebody to get addicted, it's got to be the right person, the right place, the exposure to it. All of that has to be there. The thing that's interesting about addictions is most people that use alcohol and other drugs, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but most people that use alcohol and drugs don't get addicted. There's really only a small percentage of the population that will use alcohol and drugs that will get addicted to it. Now, there are some drugs like cocaine and methamphetamine that can get somebody addicted very, very quickly. But most people that use alcohol and drugs, they don't get addicted. Only about 10% anywhere between 6 and 10% of the population that will use substances will actually become addicted.
I had no clue on that. I thought as soon as
Yeah.
you try it, you were like,
That's
"Boom."
crazy.
Well, I mean,
not gonna try it.
I suggest that you don't go trying cocaine and some of those other drugs just
Right.
will I get addicted or not? If it was that simple, I think we could find a cure for it. But yeah, it's yeah, all of those things have to be present for somebody to become addicted to it.
You just have to have the right environment, the right recipe,
The right person.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting story, and I'll tell this because it really illustrates a point. There were a group of soldiers in Vietnam that were using heroin, IV, when they were in Vietnam, and they met every definition of the definition of being addicted to heroin, withdrawals, the whole 9 yards. But something interesting, when that group of soldiers came home, they were put in a brief treatment program. Basically, they were dried out and they were sent home. And 90% of those folks stopped forever.
Wow.
And that goes contrary to a lot of what you hear about
Right.
heroin. If you use heroin, you're going to get addicted to it.
I've always heard first shot, you're done.
Well, it certainly makes an impression the first time you use it.
First
Yeah,
time, long time.
Constantly
and
chasing that.
And it does set it does set the stage, because once your body gets introduced to that rush, it's going to look for it. It's going to push you for it. It's going to be something that it likes a lot, and it's going to push you to look for it. But a lot of people that use opiates, by the time they get to heroin, they've been using opiates for a while. Most people that use heroin, their first time isn't IV.
Really, yeah.
It's not a needle in their arm. So by the time you shoot up, there's quite possible you're already addicted to it.
Well, and I think also, there's so many taboos, in society, and especially certainly with the drug commission commercials that we were hit with in the 80s and stuff like that, and 90s, that you always saw like the dirty person in the hole in the gutter that was using some type of substance, but it's not true. I mean, I've met people that are work for Fortune 500 companies who are CEOs of a job who are constantly using. So it's addiction like that doesn't discriminate, or even drug, just recreational use doesn't discriminate. And of course, in the restaurant industry, I saw a lot of it just because that industry breeds it. A lot of cocaine in our industry was pretty heavy, but just because it was a party drug. But yeah, it doesn't discriminate. It's not the dregs of society. It's not a certain type of ethnic community or anything like that. It affects all of us. All of us who have a beating heart and blood running through our veins. So
Sure. I think some of those commercials have been a disservice. 'Cause,
right.
There's a ad campaign going on right now. I don't know if you've seen it on TV, where they're showing young people that are using, and they always show the young person dead on the floor, or the mom standing over the kid on a respirator. And the message is underage drinking is dangerous, which it absolutely is. But you're right, most people that are addicted, while they can end up in the gutter, it takes people a long time for some folks, let me say that, depending on the drug person situation. It takes a while to get that far down the road, and there's a whole period of time there. If we can intervene early and start working with folks earlier, that we can prevent years of misery. But we oftentimes don't see somebody until they're where I work, until they're homeless.
Court mandated.
Yeah, we love the court mandated things. Court
They're so volunteering, I'm sure.
But the court guys, they come and they get better.
Yeah.
Because they got a judge.
Right.
And it's one of those things that's really interesting, because court does work.
Or it could be a huge wake up call.
They're woken up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like hearing the gavel hit.
Yep.
That kind of gets your attention.
I think I'd rather hit a treatment facility than go spend my time behind real bars. So.
It's better to hear a counselor say, "How can I help you?" versus a judge telling you that.
Yeah, this is your one hot of the day.
Right. 60 months and.
I like the stories of hope, and obviously you can't and we don't want like names or anything, but through your experience, like what are some of those moments that stand out that like really impact you to see somebody like going from point A to point B?
You don't have to look too hard because, Brandon said he's in recovery, and I've been in recovery too. I'm since 1990, and it seems like a lifetime ago.
Congratulations!
Yeah, no kidding. That's a lifetime ago for me because I was really young when I got into recovery, and so I'm a big fan of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it is a place where you go, and on a Friday night, Queen City in Charlotte, I can go to that meeting, and there'll be 250 people in there recovering. Business people, professionals, people smiling, laughing, joking, having a good time, and they're there because they want to be there. I can't go to a direct treatment facility anywhere
Right.
and find that many happy, smiling people that are happy to be there.
Right.
So I have to do my kind of plug out to that. But I can go to an AA meeting, and you can just watch people come to life. They're
There's something about being in a room of people that have been where you have.
It's magical.
Yeah, and
it's magical.
Yeah, you're like a zebra. You're in a world of elephants, and you're a zebra, and all of a sudden you find another room full of zebras. You're like, all right, I'm with my people.
Right,
So,
right. So, you can go to AA meetings and just see people come to life. I think through my professional career, there are a couple of people that I know that have been really meaningful to me. One person was a young mom who had a couple of kids, and she went down the road, prostitution, the whole 9 yards, kids taken away from her. I mean, just the whole 9 yards. And working with her over a period of time, watching her get her life back together, get sober, get her kids back, move into her own place, go to school, get a job, and just the joy on her face of living a different life. I mean, that's why I keep doing my job. And then there's another person who had, she got into addiction late, but man, she struggled with it and struggled with it and struggled with it, and she finally got clean and sober. And she died a couple years after she got clean and sober because of all the damage all through the years and everything. But watching her those last couple years of her life, just living and enjoying, just amazing, just amazing.
breathing sober air is a hell of a lot better than breathing in the other. So
Right.
because you're fully cognizant of every breath that you take and
Right.
what it means. I think talking about the damage that it done on that lady's body. I mean, I think 2016 and our celebrity apocalypse.
Oh, good gracious!
I think a lot of that is the kind of goes back to a lot of just those heavy years of drug and
Right.
alcohol abuse. Because a lot of those people, like Carrie Fisher, everybody's like, oh man, too young. But I mean, she had a pretty rocky road with addiction.
Did.
So
and she had mental illness.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
She struggled there for a while, and Prince. I mean,
pain pills.
pills
Yep.
prescribed.
Yep.
I think David Bowie was just old, right?
He had cancer. Yeah.
Oh, cancer.
But George Michael,
George Michael,
he
absolutely.
he was addicted to heroin, and heroin and some other stuff. Sorry, but George Michael, I think, was addicted to heroin, but and some other party drugs, or whatever too. Right. But like I said, 2016, for people who actually look into it, a lot of those deaths were people that had just abused their bodies for years, and your body doesn't forget. It's not like it rejuvenates.
It's resilient.
It's resilient,
but it can only take so much.
That's right. Just like they say every cigarette takes X amount of hours off your body or whatever. I think you can safe to say that heroin and cocaine do the same thing.
Well, the interesting thing about cigarettes, and this is again through my personal experience, and I'm just looking at some of the data that's out there. Cigarettes are a real problem for people, for everybody. But I can't count the number of people that I've known who got clean and sober. And cigarettes and drinking kind of go together. It's kind of like chips and salsa. You can't have one without the other. And I can't tell you how many friends that I've lost through the years where they would get clean and sober. They'd be sober 2 or 3 years, and then they got the dreaded diagnosis of cancer. and then they would die.
From cigarettes, yeah.
Cigarettes, yeah. So cigarettes are a big deal. Cigarettes are also probably, use this term, a gateway drug, but cigarettes, especially kids that start smoking at a younger age, there's a very significant portion of those folks that will go on to use alcohol and drugs and develop addictions. So cigarettes are a big deal. You know, you don't get arrested for smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And you can go in any store and buy them, and people don't, go hold up convenience stores to get money for cigarettes. But that's they're a big deal. They're a big deal.
I do want to go back to your cigarette taking minutes off your life. If that's the case, then how long do you think Keith Richards would have lived?
Well, he has blood transfusions.
Like that Joker, how does he keep
Yeah.
ticking?
Yeah.
I mean, good gosh.
What's the joke after a nuclear war? There are going to be two things left: cockroaches and
Twinkies and Keith Richards.
It could be 3. Let's add Keith Richards to that. What a horrible. Well, I don't know. If you're the only one left and you have just infinite amounts of Twinkies, I mean, you're not. I mean, that's actually a pretty good day.
Yeah, yeah, not too bad. Just your thoughts on marijuana and the kind of the push right now in the United States, where more and more states are legalizing, especially
Right.
for medicinal. Some states have gone the extra step and done recreational too. So, do you see this a problem? Is this going to be a problem? Coming up, as far as is it addictive? I've always heard that studies show that marijuana is not addictive.
Wow.
So
They are talking to the same people I'm seeing.
So what's your thoughts on that?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Oh.
When you asked me to come on here, I said, I know he's going to ask me that question because it's a loaded question because it's and I'll just share my thoughts, and they are my thoughts.
Sure.
And
The views and opinions.
it's an opinion. It's a big one, right? Marijuana is addictive. It's got a withdrawal syndrome.
Okay, so that component makes it self-addictive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the folks that I've seen that struggle with that and use that excuse a lot were usually the younger, the adolescents that I've worked with in a while. But I'm going to use some slang here, and I hope nobody gets offended on some of the language I'm going to use
Please
here.
no.
But I can take my 45-year-old head, who's been smoking pot for decades, and I can ask him, what's going to happen to you if you stop smoking pot all of a sudden? And universally, they just give me a list of things that's going to happen. I'm going to be irritable. I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm not going to be able to concentrate. I'm going to be just a complete jackwagon, everybody. And I'm going to think about it a lot. I'm going to be nervous. All of those things, and almost universally, they'll list the same issues. That's a clinical withdrawal syndrome. Marijuana, it does some funny things in the brain. I think where people say that it's not addictive or it's not harmful is because you don't tend to act out with it like you do cocaine, or even alcohol or opiates. You don't see those types of behaviors. But marijuana is doing some funky stuff in your brain, and it is what pot does is when it gets in your brain, it kind of works in that novelty area, that curiosity area. And for anybody that smoked pot, they'll talk about, especially early on, how it's funny how a cat walked across the room. Or the way you just looked at me was really funny.
Right.
And just really silly, mundane stuff becomes very
I
interesting.
remember laughing at the leprechaun on the Lucky Charms cereal box.
Now, that thing's funny.
Probably
Regardless,
for about
with
a
or without
day.
it.
Yeah,
Funniest thing ever.
that's right. Yeah.
Did you see the way that cat walked across the room?
Yeah.
You see how that leprechaun walked across that room?
Yeah.
The killer squirrels that we were talking
Oh
about.
no! Oh no!
Wow.
You would be a paranoid
freak out.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, you would
Nope.
you would be laughing so hard, crying and holding your side. And what's going on is the marijuana is getting in that curiosity, novelty seeking area of the brain.
So if your brain was a mall, it would be going to like Spencer's at this point.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Or a teenage boy walking by Victoria's Secrets 22 times. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Okay.
big time. Big time. Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. That's what you're talking about. Or if you like to eat, you're walking by
Cinnabon.
Sbarro's.
Cinnabon. Oh, my gosh. Cold Stone.
Oh, sweet.
Deadly.
Yeah.
But what's going on there is your brain, you start really overstimulating that area. And what your body does is if it gets overstimulated, it starts to turn it down because it can't work like that all the time. Your body's trying to adapt to it. And what ends up happening is that curiosity area, that thing that makes you curious about things, that you want to explore things like that. If you start smoking a lot of pot, your body's natural curiosity starts getting turned down. So in going from like a normal 5 or 6, it's getting turned down to a 1 or 2. And that curiosity, that feeling interested in stuff, it becomes a sort of a cycle where you start being interested, that amotivational syndrome, sleeping on mama's couch and everything, like, because you're just not motivated to do anything. That's because you're putting a substance in your body's responding to it. And also what happens if you don't use circuits in your brain, the brain starts destroying them and turning them down. And it's just a way that it maximizes its effectiveness, its use. And when you smoke a lot of pot, it actually turns those circuits off.
So it basically rewires.
It rewires your brain. And that's what's going on with pot. And there's lots of studies around it. We understand it really well. But nobody's really talking about that. And also, another thing that's likely to happen, if you legalize pot, you're going to regulate it, just like the ABC stores. And kids will tell me it's easier to get pot than it is alcohol, because drug dealers don't card.
Right. Really? I thought they would.
Yeah. So
Drug dealer with morals. Yeah.
it's sort of like a politician regulating
Yeah,
morals.
that's right.
We talked about that
That's right.
earlier, right?
Or a politician with morals. Yeah.
But anyway, I know I'm getting really lost. I'm losing you guys in
No, no.
details
Oh,
and
I'm-
stuff like
I'm
that.
right
Good
with you.
stuff.
But I worry about kids getting pushed to other things. The synthetic drugs that are out there now are scary, what happens to folks. And I'm worried that you start legalizing it and controlling it and regulating it, you'll have some kids that'll go that direction. We also know that if you legalize the drug, it's going to make more of it available. And then it's sort of like kids getting addicted to opiates. They get them because they go into their parents' and their friends' medicine cabinets, and they get it, and that's how they start. You'll see the same thing with pot. So what you'll actually start to do is see younger people and the rates of addiction increase because it's just more available. So long story short, no, it doesn't cause people to it doesn't turn people into
Axe murderers.
and
Like
zombies.
that zombie drug is like insane. Have you seen that one? This
I
is a
don't-
tangent, but like it turns them like into crazy zombies. And people like get shot like 6 or 7 times and like not even.
Some of the
flinch.
bath salts and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
the bath
or
salts
the
stuff.
guy that was eating that guy's face down
Yeah.
in Florida
Yeah, bath
several
salts,
years
yeah.
ago. I mean, just,
Are those synthetic drugs still on the rise? I mean,
oh goodness, they're everywhere.
Because
They're everywhere.
I thought they tried to make those things illegal, but you make one thing illegal, and some kid in a bathtub chemistry set is going to make something else. So
Right.
I just
You've got real chemists working on those, and all you
Yeah.
got to do is change one thing.
yeah.
And the FDA doesn't really know nobody really knows what to do with it because it keeps changing. So, I mean, the idea is to work with kids, get good information out there, do prevention, look at those risk factors that place people at risk of addiction, and try and intervening so that they don't go there in the first place. So, all that to be said, I'm not a big fan of pot being legalized. Is it going to happen? I mean, who knows?
It'll probably happen in our lifetime, I think.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. But we're still going to go back to the fact that alcohol's a legal drug and it's the number one offender.
Well,
Interesting.
my personal views on marijuana, I think they should be just. It was once upon a time, and then just due to a purpose of one man's mission, kind of made it illegal. But but you know, I think if you look at the other countries who actually have had legalized marijuana for years, I think some of their addiction rates are a lot less than ours. I'm not a specialist, and I can't quote those off top, but just from things I've read in the past. But what if someone's listening to the podcast and they say, maybe I am an addict? What are some telltale signs besides, you know, going to the pawn store every 3 weeks and pawning something at your mama's house? I mean, or if you're living on the couch and you're 43 years old in your mom's basement eating Cheetos and playing Xbox One.
Okay.
I mean, what are some signs we can kind of hang our hat on?
All right, I knew you were going to ask that question too.
Wow.
Those are the questions that you always get asked. And you see my little paper. I wrote some of this stuff down.
You came prepared.
I came prepared. So I want to talk about alcohol first, and then I'm going to kind of go into the others because alcohol is kind of easier, and this is the one that there's a lot of information on. So women, and it's not fair, but it is the way it is.
So you are saying there's a disparity between genders?
Very big.
Oh, okay. So that's
Ooh.
Very big.
so it's not
I could hit our Z community.
okay. So basically, if you identify as something else, okay. Well, okay. Go
Moving
ahead.
on.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think that one does kind of boil down to
What's inside?
what's inside.
What your chromosome is?
Or how about what's outside? One of
That's
the
right.
two.
Yeah.
So, heavy drinking for a woman would be considered drinking 3 drinks in a day or more than 7 a week.
That's heavy drinking, really.
That's heavy drinking. Well, and I'll explain what
Okay,
that means here
yeah.
in a second. For men, it's 4 drinks in a day or 14 in a week. And what this is based off is just studies that show if you drink at this consistently at this level, you're more likely to have accidents, suffer health conditions. The bad stuff happens. It's not saying whether you're addicted or not. It's just saying if you drink
Okay.
at this level over a
That gives
period
you
of
a
time,
baseline. Got it.
bad things happen. And of course, a drink is 1 beer, 5-ounce glass of wine, or a 1.5-ounce shot of liquor. That's just what your standard drink is. So when I say 3, that's what I'm talking about. And so that's just a good rule of thumb for alcohol. There are a couple websites out there that you can go take anonymous screening tools because sometimes you might be sitting there late in the evening and you're thinking might have a problem.
Yeah.
So if you Google rethinking drinking, it'll take you to a website.
Rethinking drinking.
Rethinking drinking.
Okay.
That's a good one. A lot of information on there, and they can give you like a little survey that you can take, and it'll tell you that that you drink more than 90% of the population, or you're good, whatever. And another thing you can do is just Google, "Do I drink too much?"
The standard. Oh. Yeah.
Right.
Or if you have an Amazon Alexa at home, just ask Alexa. Yeah.
Right. Alexa, do I drink too much?
Considering you just ordered 12 packs from Amazon delivery service,
Right. And that's your second order this week.
you might have a problem.
You might have a problem.
That's awesome. Just ask Google.
Yeah.
Just ask Google. So for drugs and everything, really what you're just kind of looking for, you got the clinical definitions of addiction where you have tolerance and withdrawal, continued use in spite of adverse consequences. But, really, I think the rule of thumb is, do I feel good about my drinking? Or am I using? Am I having problems? And this is a gut check.
Mm-hmm.
Are people complaining about my drinking or using?
Are you losing relationships?
Are you losing relationships? You're losing relationships? Am I losing jobs? But I think even more than that, because you can have a full-blown addiction before you get that far down the road. Just am I using more than I used to? Are people complaining about it? Have I tried to stop and I'm not being very successful? Or even less than that, have I thought to myself, this might not be a good idea?
Yeah.
If you're having those kinds of thoughts, that's a real good indicator that you probably need to take a look at what you're doing.
I know a few high functioning alcoholics myself too. So,
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
yeah, they're successul. I was never able to do that, but
Me either.
yeah,
Didn't work so well. For me, it didn't. But addiction's not just being homeless, being on the streets. One of the things going back to my dad, so I couldn't have a problem with it because I didn't drink every day.
Right.
Because I thought if I had an addiction, I have to use every day. Well, that wasn't true. Of course, I really wasn't being honest with myself because I was drinking 6 out of 7 days. So I wasn't drinking every day.
Just taking a day off.
that was for the Lord.
Yeah. Or blue laws. Yeah. You couldn't buy on the Lord's Day. Yeah.
All right. That's from South Carolina. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't buy it. Then the Panthers came in and you could buy it after, what, 1?
Yeah. Or something like that. Yeah.
Nothing about moral or anything. It was about pro football.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, God and Jesus decided that all of a sudden you could buy.
Right. And Panthers football.
Yep. That's true. It's all the Panthers' fault.
Wow. All right, so that's those are the signs, right? So
Yeah. If you're
Okay.
doing
How
this,
about, just out of curiosity, just some quick signs for parents and kids, because especially with
Right.
especially with opioids, because I think that's probably one of the bigger ones.
well, pot's still the big one for kids.
Right.
Marijuana's still the big one for kids. We are seeing kids that are getting
So if they start listening to Bob Marley,
they got good taste.
all right, check. All right, gotcha.
No, just changes in behavior. School changes in friends. If you got a kid that's been going to school and doing well in school, making good grades, and all of a sudden you start seeing that change. You start seeing changes in their friends, who they're hanging out with. Just any sudden behavior change with a kid. You need to pay attention to that. And one of the most important things for parents to know about with their kids is you just really need to be involved with your kids. Because when you do treatment with kids, the best practice is a lot of family work. And it's not necessarily about disease management with addiction like you do with adults. A lot of it's about having a relationship with your kid, being present with your kids, having a conversation with.
So being a
with
parent,
imagine
being
that.
present.
yeah,
Being present. And parents get just distracted by a lot of things.
Yeah.
Just, they have their own addictions, they have their own financial problems, they have their own relationship problems.
We're now generations deep now into single parents homes. A lot of
Right.
that. So it's when you have a single parent whose kid rides the bus home to and from school, and they come and they're working 2 jobs. I mean, I can see where.
Yeah, most parents negotiate that fairly well.
Right.
Most parents are able to negotiate. I don't want somebody listening to this to think because I'm a single parent.
no,
my
not at all.
kids.
Not at all.
But what I see with the parents that are, they have their own addictions, they have their own health-related issues, so they're just not able to be present. Parents that have sort of this attitude of a hands-off attitude. You don't have that problem because
I'll just let nature raise my kid type thing.
Right. Because I think everybody in the world's afraid of your daughter now, not because of her, but because of you. But parents that are burned out, worn out.
Man, you just described
From
me and
life.
like half of them.
But it just really, it's
Yeah.
just the parents being present,
Sure.
having conversations with your kid at night. What was the best part of your day? What did you like? What didn't you like? What are you doing this weekend? Giving them opportunities to do things with other kids, and then knowing their friends and knowing their friends' parents.
That was big.
Yeah, just being a part of their life. And that really is probably the biggest.
Just be in your kid's life.
Be in your kids.
Yeah.
Don't over control them.
Sure.
Don't be don't be a control freak with them. But who are they doing? What are they doing? Go to their ball games. Chaperone events if they'll let you. Just being a part of who they are.
Sure.
That is the number one thing you can do to protect your kids from addictions and developing a lot of other of the bad things that kids have to struggle with
Sure.
today.
Just out of curiosity, we'll let you go here in a second. Just out of curiosity, what's the youngest kid that you think you've seen that's been through an addiction type program or even a 12-step program?
Typically, where I work, the youngest we'll see come in is about 13.
Wow.
And
That's my daughter's age, man.
And we'll see that fairly
Consistent?
Yeah, that one's not.
Wow.
Now I have known of 8 and 9-year-olds to use alcohol and drugs. I've not done treatment with one. I mean, when you get to that, that's obviously a lack of supervision. A parent, there's something going on when they're that young. But 13 years old, and really what it is just when the kid starts getting mobile. And they're able to separate, and they're able to go be with their friends. That's when you really have to start paying attention.
It goes back to that be a parent in your kid's life.
But where are you going? Who are you going with? I'm gonna call her mom. Let me know when you get there.
That's right.
Have them come in. Let me talk to them. Being awake when they come home. That was my big one when I was a kid, because I could come home in whatever shape I felt like it, because my parents were going to be asleep.
Well, I always heard the voice or the verse, the Bible verse, "Spare the rod, you spoil the child."
Mm-hmm.
My mom quoted that probably at least 3 times a day as she was wielding a belt.
Well, yeah, I didn't get the rod was not spared on me, and I didn't get all the spankings I deserved. Everyone I got, I
You
deserved.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, just be present. I mean, I
think it's huge. And you see a lot of that just not happening right now, man, because just seeing in my daughter's school,
Right.
Seeing parents that aren't involved either personally or by choice or through just work or circumstances, and it breaks my heart just to see that. But anyway, just be present. I mean, that's pretty good advice right there.
And if you're taking the kids away from stuff, you got to give them something back.
Right.
So you just can't say don't do this and don't do this, and you can't hang out here and you can't go. You got to give them some options.
Sure.
Give them some options. So just don't tell them don't do something and turn your back and get mad at them.
I'm gonna give you a knuckle sandwich. That's what I'm gonna give you.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you knuckles. Yeah. That doesn't work so good.
Yeah, it didn't work for me either. So.
Oh, goodness. So if somebody is struggling and wants some help, where can they go? What are some resources? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, you can call us to our website, Anuvia.org, ANUVIA.org. You can do that. We have a website with that. Another thing to do is just call Alcoholics. You look in the I was about to say you look in the phone book, but nobody has a phone book anymore. Oh, that is hilarious.
Just pull up your smartphones.
I just said that on a podcast. Looking in your telephone book. But look up Alcoholics Anonymous. And like I said earlier,
Or Narcotics Anonymous.
Anonymous. Like I said earlier, to me, it's the best thing going. It's free, and I can't go anywhere else on a Friday night and be surrounded by people that are in a meeting because they want to be there and they're happy, they're doing life, being successful. I mean, that's the success, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can't argue with that.
But also they deal with the physical, but they also deal with the spiritual component
The whole
too.
thing.
Yeah,
The
man,
whole
it's
thing.
I speak very highly of a 12-step program.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. You can, in Cabarrus County. Of course, we're on the internet, so I'm not even sure anybody knows Cabarrus County where they are. If they saw it, they probably pronounce it Cabarrus.
Cabarrus.
If you're in Cabarrus County, really start with Alcoholics Anonymous. There's some providers in the area: Daymark Recovery Services, RHA. There's Cardinal Innovations. There's a number of different places that you can call. You can go on the website and say, I need help. And you can get a list of treatment facilities.
Or rethinking drinking.
Rethinking Drinking will actually take you to treatment resources, and my organization is listed on that.
Awesome. Very
So it's
Or if you're stupid enough and you want to play stupid games and win stupid prizes, you can always go drive around drunk, and they'll automatically send you to a facility.
That's a bad idea.
That is a bad idea.
Okay, scratch that idea.
Let's just go to our website, because we'll put a link out there.
There you
so
go.
you can go check it out. So
Yeah.
very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Do you have time for 10 and 1?
10 and 1? Sure.
All right. We're going to ask you 10 questions in under 1 minute and see if you can get those.
1 minute, 1 minute. Give me 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Give me 1 minute, say you want
Start the clock. And what is your favorite superhero?
Batman.
What is the last show that you binge watched?
Oh my gosh, The Man in the High Castle.
Okay.
Oh, great show.
Big
Great
Mac or Mac Daddy?
Mac Daddy.
Home Depot or Lowe's?
Lowe's.
Favorite 90s band?
9 Inch Nails.
Would you rather lose your cell phone or your keys?
Myself.
That's not an answer, but
We'll take it.
Peanut butter or butter pecan?
Peanut butter.
Football or basketball?
Basketball.
Worst vacation destination ever?
I haven't had bad vacation.
Okay. All right. And the last question is, what is your spirit food?
My spirit food has got to be Low Country, South Carolina barbecue.
All right.
Man, I love you, Mackie. You're my new best friend. do you like a mustard sauce or do you like?
Oh, that's where it's at, bud.
Oh, I just got my hair on my arms just stood up.
That's where it's at. North Carolina's good, but South Carolina.
Oh, man, I love mustard.
Nice. Well, again, thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it. And we'll put the links out on our website so you can check that out there. So thanks for tuning in. This is Southern Fried Philosophy. Next week, tune in. We'll have Heather Luttrell. She is a realtor in Cabarrus area, and we're going to get to know some ins and outs of the real estate game. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again. You're listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy.
I haven't been to McDonald's forever, but they put the cheese on the outside of the bread. I'm like,
Did they?
you had one job. that was probably when I was like 22 or something like that.
That's fine.
They put the cheese on the outside of the sandwich or
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
of just the whole package?
No, just on the outside of the sandwich, and then wrapped it. And I'm like, one extra step, one extra layer lower.
I thought it would be awesome if they just packaged it up and then put the cheese on top of that.
I wouldn't put it past the cream of the crap that works at McDonald's sometimes.
All right.
What was your first job? I'm just curious.
You won't believe this. My
McDonald's.
No. I never worked at McDonald's, but my first job, I was a school bus driver.
Really?
Right.
Is like in high school?
In high school.
I remember when you could do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
I was 16 years old, and I was driving a school bus.
Yep. I remember. Of course, that's when we had smoking lounges in school too.
Sure, you could go out back in the smoking lounge. It scares the hell out of me when I think about it.
I remember. I thought that was so cool, man. Like in middle school, we had smoking lounges.